Alright, I think this is looking pretty good. Pretty consistent all the way around, I would say. Yeah. I think this is ready to rig. Oh, what does that say? Put him in the microwave. Well, that's mean. Why would I put him in the... Hey folks, I'm Anchor and I hope you're having a good one. This is going to be a pretty big deviation from videos that I've made on this channel so far. I've been wanting to branch out more into showing off my process work and engaging with the community, so this little series is going to be my experimental attempt to do that. This is the first part of me designing a puppet rig for Toon Boom Harmony. I'm very new to puppet rigging, and I made my first in an animation class entirely dedicated to creating and animating a Toon Boom puppet. My last video was the final from that class, and if you want to go check that out, I'll be linking that above. But that class really struck a chord with me. Up until this point, I hadn't really considered puppet animation as an avenue that I could go down, but I mean, I clearly liked it enough to go through the tedious process of making another one, so here we are. I've had this character in mind really the minute I thought about making another puppet. His design was loose enough that I felt like I could work at it more to better suit puppet animation, and my first puppet, Vernon, is from the same universe, so I thought it'd be perfect for future projects. This is Screamer, aptly named, and he is in short a separate canine skeleton inhabiting a stolen coyote skin. He's from a cryptid-esque dark fantasy story that I've been working on as a little side passion project called Pitmadden, and if you all are interested, I can go in depth on a little bit of that world's lore in a different video, but for now that's really all you need to know to understand the design of this guy. During my sketching phase, I really wanted to start exaggerating his proportions, having this big burly chest juxtaposed to skeletal haunches. And I think for a minute there, I was having trouble trying to find that balance, but I'm pretty happy with what I ended up with in these sketches, and I have the traditional ones that I can put up on screen as well. Part of the challenge with this puppet is definitely going to be all the masking that I'm going to have to do with his fur patterns and his face. His face is going to be a beast all on its own, because something I really just can't get rid of is how the false coyote face is supposed to peel away to show that true skull underneath. I have a few ideas of how I'm going to accomplish that, and it's going to require me to rig 2 separate heads for him, but I think it'll be worth it to have that flexibility in what I can animate with Screamer. You can kind of see what I'm thinking up in the top right corner. In between the 2 separate head rigs, I'm going to have some sort of transformation sequence that seamlessly joins the 2. And here's where I started thinking about his color palette. Nothing crazy, I used a lot of references from real coyotes, took some liberties with the fur patterns, and tried as best as I could to simplify those shapes down so that theoretically it won't be a nightmare later. I have my doubts that I accomplished that, but we shall see. Finally, onto the key to how I can start actually making this puppet. If this series is something that you're following along with to try and make a puppet yourself, I cannot stress enough how important it is to have an extremely solid turnaround before you even think about starting to make your puppet. I made the mistake of not taking the extra time to really smooth out Vernon's turnaround when I first made it. It was majorly consistent, but the second I got down to the finer details, especially in his face and hair, I realized that I could have taken a lot more time in the beginning making sure that it was perfect so I wasn't agonizing later about different facial aspects not lining up properly. Some tips that I was given by my professor to start off is to create circle guidelines for the placement of the feet, just to give yourself a point of reference to work from so the placement of your character is consistent from view to view. The other major aspect of a turnaround is the endless amount of horizontal alignments. With a usual turnaround, you want most of the major aspects of your character to line up and turn around, but if a small part is misaligned, really no one's going to worry about it because you're using it as a reference for when you're next going to draw your character. For a puppet turnaround, you need to treat every view as your final artwork, because what you work off of is going to inevitably be the final look of your puppet, and that's why lining everything up horizontally is so crucial to have both the puppet looking consistent and to save yourself the heartache when you have to draw all the parts in Toon Boom, and suddenly you realize, like me, that the face is not lining up ever. But yeah, that's really all you need to know to make your first turnaround. You can see as I continue to struggle with these sketches that it's just a lot of trial and error, making sure things line up. And after I cleanly line everything to the best of my ability, I went in with more horizontal alignments specifically for his fur patterns, just because it's going to be kind of more on the complex side. So I'll just let this time-lapse run, and towards the end of this video I will show how I imported this image into Toon Boom so that I could split it up and make it usable for a puppet rig. Right, and here we have our turnaround that we're going to import into Toon Boom. So once you get your Toon Boom project set up, this is what it's going to end up looking like at the end of this process, but I'm just going to delete that so we can have a clean slate. Add a color card just to make it easier for yourself. This is all kind of assuming that you know the basics of Toon Boom already. So what we're going to do is we're going to import an image. We're just going to find that. Recommended that you just make a bitmaps folder within your Toon Boom Harmony setup, just so that everything is in a place where you can really find it easily. And then what you're going to do is, usually this, the import options is set to keep as original bitmap, but you're going to change that to import as Toon Boom bitmap, and then pre-multiply it with black just because it looks a little bit nicer. And then we're going to create that. And this is what you'll be left with. Just drag that to the top. And the first thing I like to do is split all of these frames up into original drawings. So here we have the duplicate drawing button. We're just gonna go through each of these views and do that. All right. Whoop. First thing you're going to want to do is make sure that this first frame has your front view centered. So we're just going to drag this over. I use the shift and arrow key to drag it over just so that it's perfectly horizontal and doesn't like go up or down at any point. So we're just going to have that roughly in the middle somewhere. Yeah, right there works. And then when we jump to the next frame, you're going to see that because it's duplicated, we now have individual drawing substitutions for every frame here. So we're going to do that. And then when we go to this next frame, what I'm actually going to do is go to the cutter tool and just get rid of everything that's around this second view, so that when I delete it, we're just left with this guy. And then I'm basically just going to do the same thing. I'm going to roughly bring him over to where I believe the first view was. And if I flip back and forth, you can see he's a little bit off. That's almost right. Right about there? Yeah. That works. Okay. And then really, yeah, just go through all the next frames. And for these last 3 views, honestly, just delete what we already have here. And go back to these. So we have the over the shoulder. And just flip it with the operations tool. And move that back to where it's supposed to be. And same with the side. And the 3/4. It's a little bit off. There we are. All right. And then for this first frame, you know, do the same thing. Just grab all that's around that and then delete it. Perfect. All right. Now that that's good. What I should have done at the beginning is resize this to fit the screen properly. But what you can do instead is just do apply to all frames. A little bit of a grab the corner of one and just scale it up and move. And now, yeah, there we are. And to view this so that it doesn't go a million miles an hour when you're trying to watch it in your playback, just go to your FPS and bring it down to 8. It should look like that. And we're not even going to worry about the node view at the moment, but this is going to be very important for when we actually start, you know, making the puppet. This is going to be all of that. So what I'm going to do to get that ready is just turn the opacity down. And yeah. Now you're ready to make a puppet. Now I'm ready to make a puppet, actually. In the next video, I'll be doing all the shape breakdowns and really getting everything in the node view set up so that I can properly start rigging this guy. This is as much of a refresher to me as it is anyone watching this to learn. I'm using this series just to try and, like, give myself a point of reference if I ever need help in the future, or just, like, get myself motivated to really get all this knowledge burned into my brain as much as possible. So next I'm using my mouse, forgive me, but, you know, just going through each point of the body up into the ankle and making sure parts overlap, and theoretically that should be a perfect circle, but ignore that. But yeah, going through and making sure that all of the joints that we have are going to be, you know, doing their thing, and after that we can start circle rigging and get into, you know, vectoring this first part of the body and then going into these next views. I hope you all enjoyed watching this little weird process video. It's probably a little rough around the edges just because it's my first time making this sort of thing, but, you know, let me know in the comments if there's any other types of videos you'd like to see from me or any improvements I could make. But for now, if you got to this part of the video, it's a reminder to go drink water, get up and stretch, and I'll see you guys later.